first session today morning is going to be a very interesting session. I will rather call it as not as a session, but it is about some of our old staff who are here will share their reminiscence. They will share those very interesting moments they had with Professor as well as with the foundation. To begin this session, I request Professor to chair the session. Sir, I request you to chair the session. And also, Dr. Velayutham, our former Executive Director, is here. He will co-chair the session. To begin, may I request Dr. Anil Kumar to come and give the welcome address and also share his views on.
Good morning to everyone. Respected Professor, the co-chair Dr. Velayutham, and my former colleagues who are very important for the day. Dr. Nambi is there, Dr. Pishupati Balakrishna is there, Mr. Raghavendra Rao is there, Dr. Shekhar is there, Gopalakrishnan is there. So let me first welcome my former colleagues. If you look at the foundation's journey, foundation started in the year 1988 by registering in New Delhi, and Swaminathan later moved to Chennai, and the active phase of MSSRF started, I would say, in the year of 1990. And the first wave of people to this organization, if you look at people like them, and I was also fortunate to be there in that team. So we all came as very youngsters. In my case, I was even that time did not complete my PhD. I was on the last phase of writing the thesis. Most of us were in that young world. I mean, with that energy. Sir, you showed us, in fact, Swaminathan showed us the way how the science should be linked with the society. See, in all these cases, very pure scientists or pure researchers we were. So we could help Professor Swaminathan and his initial team. His initial team were only two or three people. Parashuraman was the first staff. There was one Dr. Rajeshwari Mahalingam. And I also take this opportunity to remember the other staff who could not come here. Dr. Balaji, Dr. Balasubramaniam later on. All these people, I would say, contributed in a greater way to build this organization. When we looked into the total number of staff over these 30 years, we could see we had a total of more than 1,200 staff contributed in different way. So I, in fact, on behalf of Professor and the trustees, would like to thank all of them. And now we are around 200 staff. And our strength, I would say, our unique strength, we are a multidisciplinary team. I am basically a botanist. And many of us are from the agricultural scientists, from the social scientists, from the economics side, even engineers are working with us. This multidisciplinary team working with the local communities in partnership, this is where the participatory research comes in. So the multi-sectoral problems need multi-sectoral solutions. So this is where MSSRF is becoming unique, because our solutions, with the solutions which we are recommending, are unique compared to any other pure developmental or research organizations. So with these few words, I welcome all of you. All other dignitaries are here, our speakers for the next session here. So I welcome all of you to this particular session. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you all come for this very important session. If you go through the history of institutions which have done well, it is not a brick and mortar. It is the scientists, the staff members, scholars of the institution. Ultimately, it is the human being who makes a difference. And that is why we thought that 30 years of learning, what have we done? And fortunately, we have got several other people who have worked here in the past. They are the best to say what is wrong, what is right. Because not only I put what is wrong first and then what is right next. So I think please be frank. We want to see how to move forward, not to stay where you are. And fortunately, Dr. Velayutham is the co-chair, so I request him to conduct the proceeding.
Good morning to one and all of you, and my respects to the chair, Professor Swaminathan, Dr. Bruce Alberts, Dr. Talwai from the Niti Aayog, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to follow the footsteps of Professor Swaminathan. Although the title is co-chair, I am not the co-chair. I am one of those followers following his footsteps. And I will recall my own reminiscences a little bit later. Although the title is Reminiscences of MSSRF. But my own reminiscence goes to 18th November 1968, when I met Professor Swaminathan for the first time at Chennai in Pachayappa's college, where he was the keynote speaker for a national symposium of the Society of Biological Sciences of India. That is where I met you, sir. Before that, I should recall the prophetic statements of my two guides at the University of Aberdeen, Scotland. In late 1965 to 1968, I was the PhD scholar at the University of Aberdeen under the Commonwealth Scholarship. One day there was a BBC program on Indian agriculture, a documentary, and Professor Swaminathan was speaking, piloting the whole program and speaking behind a country plow in the field of IARI. The next day morning, my professor, Dr. Tinsley, came and asked me, "Well, did you see yesterday's program on BBC? The Pusa Institute director was there. Do you know him?" I said, I know him in the mind, but I have not met him so far. Then he said, after you go back, you will have a chance to work with him. That was prophecy. The other prophecy was my immediate supervisor came to my lab one day subsequently and showed a reprint of an article by a famous soil scientist in IARI, Dr. Ramamurthy, with whom I got associated later through Dr. Swaminathan. He asked me, Dr. Court, my supervisor, "Well, do you know this author, Ramamurthy? This is a path-breaking paper in soil science presented at the World Congress on Soil Science at Madison, USA. I told him I met him because he came to Coimbatore, where I was a student in MSc, and he gave foundation lectures. I longed to work with him. And he said, when you go back, you will have definite chance to work with him. These were the two prophecies. Therefore, I say that reminiscence of MSSRF, to me, MS Swaminathan and MS Swaminathan Research Foundation are two sides of the same coin. I won't say coin, that's an old phrase, English phrase. It is two sides of the same golden heart. In one of the earlier presentations, I gave you a memento quoting your mother, "Tangammal petredutha pattarai maathu Tangame." His mother's name is Tangammal. That is, she is a golden-hearted lady who gave birth to a golden-hearted son. That's what the phrase I coined at that time. And therefore, I can speak a lot about you, sir, but since there are other speakers, I will cut short the time. But only one statement which it says Dr. Bhatia, your own student, and who became the secretary of the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. In one of his letters to you, that was, I think, 70th birthday celebration, He says, Dr. Swaminathan is a rare combination of all desirable genes. I would go a step further. He says a rare combination of all desirable genes is the rarest of the rare combination of all desirable genes. You all know that an anthology of publications of Swaminathan was released recently by the Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi. Dr. Iyer will be speaking later as one of the speakers. I thought I would I could not come again and again, but I will give my own reminiscences of both Swaminathan and the Swaminathan Research Foundation. As I said, both are two sides of the same gold coin. So in my time during executive director of this foundation, 2002 to 2007, he initiated a program called Every Child a Scientist. It's still going on, because the questioning mind is there with every child. That is the questioning mind of every scientist also. So that is the program he initiated. And for the child, we say A for apple. When the child starts schooling, we say A for apple, to learn, to make the child learn. So I chose that alliteration. What is A, B, C to X, Y, Z of MS Swaminathan Research Foundation? This came to my mind as an alliteration gift for your birthday, sir. Now we go to that. Yes. The A, B, C to X, Y, Z of MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, the founder, chairman, mentor, and he is in fact A, B, C to X, Y, Z. So we will go on that journey. What A stands for? Anchoring agriculture science progress and its propagation, not only in India, but throughout the world. B for promotion of bio-villages and bio-towns and bio-cities. That's what the Swachh Bharat is all about. The towns and cities you should recycle and return to the soil as a manure. C for caring for conservation of nature. He was president of IUCN, International Union for the Conservation of Nature, for 10 years. D for reaching the unreached through distance education. These are not only the philosophy of the foundation, but practices of the foundation, which enabled me very easily to go from A to Z. I was stuck up only with one letter, X. I will come to that later. D for reaching the unreached through distance education. E for promoting, inspiring and promoting to achieve evergreen revolution. F for realizing the Food Security Act. Ours is the only country in the Committee of Nations to have enacted the Food Security Act in the Parliament. There is no other country in the world. They are all speaking that there is a guaranteed act in the Constitution, is the Food Security Act of 2013. Realizing the Food Security Act, there are so many publications from this foundation which fit into that act. Food security, insecurity of rural India, urban India, and so on. And then fostering farming systems models. Yesterday you heard Dr. One of the senior scientists of this Bhavani speaking on farming system models for nutrition, FSN, and farmers, producer organizations and companies. That is the future for the country, to make the small and marginal farmers to make agriculture as a engaging profession intellectually and economically. G for sensitizing gender-friendly agriculture is the only institution. H for hand-holding the self-help groups, not only the women self-help groups, but in a large measure to come, also the men farmers self-help groups. I for igniting integrated rural development. One lecture of his as the president of Science Congress gave birth to the Ministry of Rural Development. J for promoting job-led growth enterprises. K for knowledge and skill empowerment. L for leveraging lifelong learning. He was the one who propagated 4 L's. Lab to lab, lab to land to lab, land to land. It speaks everything of agricultural extension and research extension. 4 L's. M for mentoring grassroots institutions. N for providing a national virtual academy platform in this foundation for the young farmers. O for one-stop open university. This is a one-stop open university. P for promoting pro-poor, pro-women and pro-nature. You have that flag in your bags. Pro-poor, pro-women and pro-nature. I call them the Trinity. Q for quest for biohappiness and biodiversity conservation. R for research for sustainable agriculture. S for achieving sustainable development goals, the theme of this year's conference. T for a very transparent institution. You cannot go for searching it, you come here. U for uniqueness, from uniqueness to universal relevance. Whether the output and outcome of this institute is not only unique, but it has relevance to universal appeal and application. V for promoting ICT-enabled village knowledge and resource centers. W for more crop per drop of water movement. He was the chairman of that committee constituted by the then Union Minister of Water Resources. X, this is where I was stuck up for a day. Other things I wrote very easily. The next day, it came as a flash in my mind. X for an example of an exemplary center, MSSRF, is an exemplary center without walls. Without walls, I mean both physical walls and mental walls. Y for driving youth to modern agribusiness and value chain pathways. Z, sir, for continuing your untiring zeal towards the zenith, which is yet to come in a year or two. This is my prophecy. Towards the zenith during this century and beyond. With this alliteration and my home and my, I won't say best wishes, prayers for your long, happy life, healthy life, I will further go on with this session and requesting a set of speakers who will share their own reminiscences. May I call upon now Dr. Selvam, the former executive director. Has he come? He may join later. Dr. B. Balakrishna, please come.
Thank you, Professor Velayutham, and very respected professor, very distinguished colleagues. It's a great moment, reminiscing. For me, it's a great moment because, as I said that yesterday, that my joining the August with a capital A gathering is almost about 20 years since I've been here. So it's a great honor and a privilege. But what I'd like to do is, like other colleagues here, would like to share a few thoughts, ideas, and the learnings I've had meeting him. The first time I met him in person was when I was a student in University of Cambridge in UK. When he came to give a keynote speech in Birmingham at the Genetics Congress. It was the first time I met him, and as you know, anyone who's been working in biodiversity conservation, agriculture, has been a source of inspiration, and a person who always wanted to say at least hello and shake hands at least once in your lifetime. So that's the first time I saw him. And at that time I was actually studying in University of Cambridge, but also working in Limagrain, which was a multinational seed company, where my research was in transformation, genetic engineering, biotechnology kind of a thing. And that was 1989. It was about May or June 89. So December I actually came for a holiday. I'm from Chennai, I came for a holiday. And I ran into him at a meeting or a workshop. And one thing which connected, and I was quite surprised to see, the way he responded was that I said, sir, I met you in Birmingham, and I'm from Cambridge. And his first question was, which college? So I said, I'm from Churchill. I said, oh, Churchill, it's next door to where I studied, Fitzwilliam College. So it was a very sort of immediate connect in terms of doing it. So we had a quick chat and he asked, what are you doing? So then I said what I was doing at the time. One of the areas that I was working on is on using the new biotechnological tools for looking at genetic diversity. And one of the areas was that. And at that time, there was no foundation, there was no office, and he actually was the chairperson or chairman of the IIT Madras, where he had a small office in IIT campus next door to here. And then he said, if you're free, maybe we can meet. So I said, certainly, sir, I'll be more than happy to come and see you. So I had a conversation. I went, and there was Ms. Usha, who was your secretary, sir, at that time. So she called, and I went and saw him. And then I said, what are your plans? I said, actually, I'm finishing. I came here for a holiday, and I'd like to continue the studies. And I said, look, I'm looking at establishing a foundation, and I really like kind of focus you have on using some of these technological tools. So would you be interested to join? And I was quite surprised, for a person like him to ask that question. And I said, sir, actually I have to think because I just came for a holiday, what do I do? And I immediately went back, thought about it. And I had only one thought in mind. That was like, if I had graduated from Cambridge, I would have gotten a PhD from Cambridge. And maybe my bank balance would have gone a little bit because of the Lee-Grain Association of the private-public partnership. But then I said, sir, actually, I don't have a PhD. I'm still sort of studying. He said, look, since we are establishing the foundation, I can't pay you a huge amount of money. I'll pay you a small amount of money, but I'll ensure that you'll get the best experience in terms of your beginning the career. So I immediately got back to him in a few days and said that, sir, actually I'm joining. I'm joining you. Every day of the 7 years I spent in this foundation since January 1990, whether it is hiring the place in Kottrupuram when we started the first formal foundation's work, to constructing this particular campus, it was a brilliant experience. It's just not about science. It's just not about learning on different ways you do research and publish reports and papers, but a whole lot of things. A whole lot of things in terms of how do you present yourself, how do you interact, how do you react, how do you recognize. So every bit of it has been a learning experience. And that actually really sort of helped me to shape to what I am today. And especially at that age, when you're 24, 25, to get opportunities like, being a member of the task force of DBT. And I still remember the sort of expression in the face of the other members as entered the room in DBT when Dr. Manju Sharma was the secretary. They thought I just came to make a presentation for a project proposal. They said, no, probably you should not be here. You should be coming a little later to make a presentation. Great opportunities. And we were just remembering our visit to Fasdu Iguazu for the CGIAR meeting, where the discussion was on developing an ethics and equity framework for CGIAR at that time. Whether it is related to developing the first, or the only operational program for the Global Environment Facility. Again, a very rare honor to be provided to him and to the foundation in terms of writing the operational program for GF. Today, if you take operational program 13 of GF on agrobiodiversity, it's actually something which actually, originated from here. The first conceptual framework on access and benefit sharing, 1995, actually came from here. The Keystone Dialogues, the birth and genesis of the Biodiversity Act, the Plant Variety Protection Act. Brilliant running. Every day I learned, and I used to tell my colleagues, several of them are here, saying that if there is one thing which anybody can learn from here, are 2 or 3 different things which I captured and I still continue to cherish. The first thing is, how do you connect the most unconnected? And that's a skill that he taught me. How do you actually think on issues which probably many of the people outside thinks that, no, I don't think they are related to each other. The second element is that at that time, I still remember, sir, the discussion you have had with Dr. Rajamani, who was the Secretary of Ministry of Environment and Forests, and Dr. Ramachandran, who was the Secretary of DBT at that time, when he said, we want to have a biotechnological intervention dealing with mangroves. The first reaction was that mangroves? Now, why do you want to work on mangroves? I mean, it's such an uncommon, I mean, it's a kind of a strange thing to work on biotechnology for mangroves, very difficult species. So one of the lessons I learned is that if you really want to be establishing yourself, if you want to be really looking into the future, look for things which actually are more futuristic. Look for things which others are not even thinking about. And thank you for that, because that really helped me to really work on issues, focus on things, understand things from that perspective. There is nothing in this foundation that actually was done that is contemporary. Whether it is Biodiversity Act, whether it is the Plant Variety Protection Act, or whether the work to do with the Vikrama rainforest program that was created, everything was something which others thought about 5 years, 10 years down the line. And that actually gave the edge to the foundation, not only looking at things which are more locally relevant, nationally important, but also globally very, very significant. And to me, if I'm going to be looking at what the next 10, 20, 30 years of the foundation is going to be, my first, not a request, but aspiration would be that I think that is something which we should be doing more and more. Because currently we're in a situation where the global leadership looks for these kinds of ideas more and more. And the relevance of the work that the foundation has done, especially when I was sitting and listening, and I did mention about it in my comments yesterday, is significant. But are we looking only at the results that we are generating, or are we also looking at the impacts we are creating? I think if that impact related work would be the focus, I think that basically would be brilliant. And certainly this kind of a conversation with people who've been associated, who continue to be associated, we will be very glad to be associated. We'll be more than happy to come in and be with you. I can't say we'll support you, but be with you in terms of the future journey for the foundation. Because especially for me, it's just not a professional association, either with you or with the foundation, but it is more an emotional relationship I have. Thank you very much.
May I request Dr. A. Nambi?
Good morning. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. I want to parrot what you said. Almost, I follow the footsteps of both Prof. Swaminathan and Mr. Balakrishnan to some extent, because I'm also a student of Cambridge, and he's instrumental in bringing me here and putting me in touch with Prof. Swaminathan. So that explains. To me, again, like Dr. Velayutham said, MSSRF is synonymous to Prof. Swaminathan, and Professor Swaminathan is synonymous to the foundation. So you cannot separate them. It's very difficult. I'm quite confused, where to start with, because there are so much of learnings from this institute as well as from Professor Swaminathan. So the biggest challenge is how to kind of capture the texture of a, great human being in few words, as well as the institute in a few words. That's a challenge in itself. My association with Professor Swaminathan and the foundation is about 28 years now. I still remember vividly the day I got to meet him for the first time in 1991 in the Kottapuram office. Bala brought me. That's the time I just graduated, fresh graduate from Cambridge, and came here. And the very first meeting, I went as a Commonwealth scholar there, and partly my scholarship was funded by the Hindujas. So Hindujas also offered me a job. They're starting some new project in Bangalore. So I came with a job offer. But always I had in mind that, I had to work in the environment space. That's always been one of the motivations I had, but I didn't know where to go and how to start this. So that gave a good beginning. When I was talking to him, I was quite inspired with the very first meeting. And Professor, I was surprised that he offered me a job as well, immediately. And I didn't even consult my parents then. The same day I accepted, because much of the things in my formative years, what I learned about Professor Swaminathan is from my father. He's a big fan of him. You have never even seen him, but over radios he heard a lot about his lectures and stuff. That's the kind of inspiration what he had, which he passed on to me. That stays still today with me. And a couple of other things I just want to mention here. When I joined as I told you, I joined the foundation very next day. There were very handful of people, not many. Anil was there, of course, Ravi Shankar and Balakrishna. Very, very few people there, Balaji. And the best thing about that phase of the foundation is, Professor gave one-on-one attention to everybody. Since it's a small group, almost every day he just walks around to check, what the work is and what have we done the day before and what is there for today. That regular check, that's kind of a one-on-one attention what he provided had lots of meaning in developing career. Every day is a learning for us. And on the way, he just picks up whatever the rubbish is left out, the paper there. That's a great learning, wherever if the fans are on, he switches off on the way while he goes around goes around the office in the mornings. All these little things makes a lot of difference in one's life at that young age. I can't underscore how transformational it is to experience the level of attention and respect from a towering personality like Professor Swaminathan, as I mentioned, that shaped not only your thoughts and your contributions to what you make to the society. In a very big way, it influenced me. And it is the experience at Foundation is not only rewarding, but also it's empowering, quite empowering. Certainly, truly, it's a great seat of learning, because very rarely you see people working both in the policy and practice institute, which works both on prior policy and practice. This is the biggest test bench for that, and as people mentioned, lots of products which came out, which has not a lot of national relevance today. And then I had two phases of my career here. I started here between 91 and 95, I stayed here, and then went for my PhD work in the US. Then all along, I stayed there for about 10.5 years there. All along, I've been in touch with Professor Swaminathan and the foundation. And that helped me in my PhD in a big way, because unlike other people, I went with a set idea. So that really facilitated my PhD. I could work more concretely with the ideas what I carried from here, helped me in a very big way. I would like to kind of highlight, and then again in 2004 again I got back. My wife and I, for some reason, we decided to go back to India. And looking back, there are other opportunities as well, but then it's second homecoming for me to the foundation. So from there on, I stayed for another about 9 years, and then in 2013 I moved to WRI. I would like to highlight a few personal experiences, what I had, the incidences and experiences that I cherish so much in my life. Once, when I was working in the World Bank, in Washington, D.C., whenever a professor visits, it's a festival to me. I go crazy in the sense that I will go on leave on the days he's staying there to help him out merely. That's such a joy, and particularly helping out with the emails and stuff. I will equate this enthusiasm that you have, sir, when you hear the word of Nitya coming to Chennai every time, how you prepare yourself. That's the kind of enthusiasm I had in those days. One cold day, we were walking. Whenever he comes, I just drop him at the hotel, wherever he stays. So one very cold day, I think in November, he was there, and I was just walking with him. In my usual enthusiasm, I forgot my coat, my jumpers, everything in the office. I just walked a few blocks, then realized I was shivering. So Professor had a spare sweater in his bag. He couldn't even place the bag down. It's all snow. So he was holding my bag and he pulling out his sweater, and made sure I wore that, and then took me to the Starbucks cafe just close by, so that I had a hot coffee there. That's a fatherly affection. There's nothing could substitute that feeling, what I had, and still I remember that so warmly. There are so many other incidences as well. Another important incident I want to mention is about the toil for money. People think, phone calls he gets money. That's once he had an appointment with the Summit Foundation, one of the donors based out of Washington. So I went with him, along with him for the meeting. So the appointment was fixed at 2:30 with the director of the foundation. The foundation submitted a proposal. They're expecting some money, and he wanted to have a follow-up conversation with the director. We were there in the office right on time, about his punctuality. So we were there before in time. We're sitting in the reception. People knew that he was here. Nobody was really taking any pains to kind of inform the director. And then, time passed by about half an hour, then 45 minutes. Then he went to the receptionist in his own way. Madam, this is Swaminathan. He never introduced himself. This is Swaminathan. Could you please inform your director that we are here to meet him? Then she called again. There's about 15-20 minutes of wait. So twice he went to the receptionist and talked to her. But there's no thing. And then I went in. I was feeling very restless. I went there. I asked the receptionist to connect to the program manager, and we understood that only then we realized the director had some emergency and he's left, and the program manager was there. So I told him that Professor Swaminathan is here and he is the interim chair of the Ford Foundation. That's the language they understand. Immediately, within the 10 minutes, the entire battery of people came there to meet with him. But he's so humble that he never even said who he was. And I was feeling so restless at that point in time. Another important privilege I'd had is he took me to the Union of Concerned Scientists, which is a very, very rare privilege for a person like me. It's a club of the Nobel laureates, as you all know. Even being sitting there with those people is something which I really reminisce those memories so much. So that's another greatest learning experience I had, the kind of interactions, the high-level interactions what they had. And another small thing which I remember is when he was awarded the Volvo Environment Prize in New York, I traveled there overnight to be part of that award ceremony. Once he delivered his acceptance speech, he walked down. I was sitting in the aisle of one of the seats. He was asking me, how was the talk? I was so it's so humble, and so I don't find words to kind of, such a great man asking you this question. I was so dumbfounded on that. So there are so many, I can go on narrating all these things, but then, it is the moral of the story is there is every bit of it, there's so much to learn from him in every act of him. So which I try to imbibe myself with, but it's very difficult to, as you know, to be so perfect about things as what he is today. And the love and affection he has is pure and unconditional. His charm is his love, and his love manifests itself in his belief. And that's what makes him so precious. The ability to imagine new possibilities, that what Bala also talked about, ahead of time. That's something, which we cannot really emulate those qualities. It's very rare. But then, we have to strive hard to kind of at least, we got bits and pieces of those qualities in which he ingrained us, has given those, at least he's shown the pathway to us, and it's important for people like us to follow that and within our capacity to kind of, implement those, whatever he taught us. So I'll stop here. It's such a privilege to have been associated with Professor, and to take this opportunity to pray the Almighty, like Dr. Velayutham said, may God give him more life and be doing what he's doing for so long. Thank you so much. I owe so much to him, and my career is completely. I owe my career to him. Thank you so much.
May I request Dr. Sekhar?
Respected Professor and Dr. Velayutham sir and Dr. Anil Kumar, Executive Director, it's indeed a great pleasure and honor to be here to cherish what our old memories. I am presently working as professor in the Department of Horticulture at Annamalai University. I had a great opportunity to serve in this foundation during 92 to 95, heading eco-horticulture project. It's a time to recall our association. That's why Professor is a great iconic figure. When he interviewed me, it was in his residence on August 15th. After a governor's dinner, he called me to his residence. He just asked 2 points. Sekhar, are you interested to work in a horticulture project? And he did not ask me anything else. I said, sir, under your leadership, I'm willing to work at any project. And the next day morning, he sent a fax. You joined the foundation, and that was on deputation from Annamalai University. He asked me to continue after 3 years, but university did not permit. I went back to university, but I see to that each and every foundation day, I'm part of this organization, and I had a privilege of working with this legend. I learned a lot from him. People in the university used to say, Shaker before foundation and Shaker after foundation, there is a vast difference in the attitude and skill sets I developed here. Really, it's a wonderful experience. I take this opportunity to thank the organizer for providing this platform to share my feelings. I seek the blessings of Professor and his family for all his support in my future career. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Raghavendra Rao, please.
Yeah. Respected Professor Swaminathan, Dr. Velayutham, and my dear friend Anil, who's really under his leadership, I'm sure the foundation will do very well. I'm going to keep it really short. I mean, I had the opportunity of coming into the foundation in the early 90s when Anil said we were still working out of the Koturpuram office, and it was just amazing. I see some of my old friends here. I've had a good opportunity to interact with them, and in spite of a break of a decade and a half, it's still as though we knew each other very well. So when you are in a foundation like this, you meet some very, very good people. And you meet, and Dr. Swaminathan is not only good, he's a great person. And a great institution attracts a lot of talent, from different places. So you get to meet very important people who are experts in their own field. And being a part of this foundation, you sort of pull out certain things from them and you take away a bit of the good things that everybody has to offer. So I'm grateful for that, especially at a time when I entered the foundation. I've picked up a lot of skills along the way, and many of them, sir, I owe to you. Okay? The other thing is that when we were here at the foundation, Dr. Swaminathan, as many people mentioned, came up with some very futuristic, kind of concepts. He used to speak about, and I was happy to be involved in that, it was called the Genetic Garden for Sustainable Mixed Farming. It was a collection of live germplasm from everywhere for dryland farmers who could come and see and pick up what plants they required to make their farming system more productive and resilient. So we did that in Katupakam. Unfortunately, because of some legal issues, I don't think that's continuing, but I've taken that away from me in my work. Okay, the third thing that I learned was you have to implement what you learn, because the essence of knowledge is in its application. And wherever I've been post the foundation, I've done that, tried to implement these things, looking at how science can be interlinked with society, how people can benefit, and how the results of science, scientists are working, but how their scientific experiments, their scientific, the things born out of science can be given to the people. So that's another thing that I took away. Lastly, I'll end with the humorous side of Professor Swaminathan. He used to talk often about the World Bank's training and visit system. He said that soon degenerated into a talk and vanish system. You talk and then you vanish. You can't see the extension chap anymore. So when in my work, I ensured that when we do something, we have to walk with them till the last mile, so that things that we talk about get implemented on the ground. And another thing, last one, is once when we had a meeting, there were some people from NGOs who were asking whether they could get some funding from the Swaminathan Foundation at that time. So I went back and asked Professor whether this is possible. So he said, tell them that we can give them Saraswati, that is knowledge, not Lakshmi. With that I end. Thank you so much.
Respected, definitely, sir. Respected professor, dignitaries, and friends and colleagues, good morning. I'm a former staff of MSSRF. Unlike others, I'm very proud. I'm a student of MS Swaminathan Foundation, and I joined in the year 1994. I'm again proud that professor interviewed me and selected in the Eco Aquaculture project. It's a project which was funded by DBT. That time in our foundation, that was the huge money. That means 1.75 crore. That is a huge money that time. And I was different capacities. I worked from associate to When I left, I was a senior scientist here. And my guide is Dr. Ajay Kumar Pareda. And another thing for the benefit of the farmers, actually I am a faculty in Annamalai University. A Tamil poet and saint says, வாடிய பயிரை கண்டபோதெல்லாம் வாடினேன். நம்ம ஃபவுண்டேஷன் என்ன பண்ணுச்சுன்னா, வாடிய பயிரை கண்டபோதெல்லாம் வாடிட்டு வள்ளலார் போயிட்டார். ஆனால் நம்ம ப்ரொஃபஸர் வாடிய பயிருக்கு உரமும் நீரும் ஊற்றி கொண்டிருக்கிறார். அதுதான் நம்ம ஃபவுண்டேஷனுடைய பர்பஸ். விவசாயிகளுக்கு சொல்கிறேன், சிதம்பரத்தில் இந்த இன்டெகிரேட்டட் ஃபார்மிங்ன்ற ஒரு ஃபார்மிங் சிஸ்டத்தை ப்ரொஃபஸர் ப்ரப்போஸ் பண்ணாங்க. அதில் ஒர்க் பண்ணோம். இன்றைக்கி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 200 to 300 ஃபார்மர்ஸ், 300-400 விவசாயிகள் அதை ஃபாலோ பண்ணிகிட்ருக்காங்க. இன்னொரு விஷயம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, கடைசியாக நான் ஃபவுண்டேஷன் விட்டு பல்கலைக்கழகத்துக்கு போகும்போது கிட்டத்தட்ட அனைவருக்கும் மீன் திட்டமாக ஃபிஷ் ஃபார் ஆல் சென்டர் எஸ்டாப்ளிஷ். Actually, it was proposed by our professor only in the World Fish Center. And another word he coined is that fish for all and ever. Of course, it is picking up well under the coordination of Dr. Velayutham, under the overall leadership of our executive director. And still I am having a link with MSSRF. And another thing, professor used to say win-win situation. In my case, I have not contributed much to the foundation, but I gained a lot. But still I am having an organic link with MSSRF and continuing work with the Fish for All Center, and also a little bit of collaboration with Professor Nitya here for the fishermen, this one. And continuously I am going to have a very good relation with MSSRF. Definitely I gained a lot rather than my contribution to the foundation. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Respected Professor and dignitaries in the dais and also that in front of me. 40 years back, I was working in Paddy Processing Research Center, Tanjavur, under the leadership of late Dr. V. Subramanian, founder director of the CFTRA Mysore. We had a meeting at the Secretariat, Tamil Nadu, and I was asked to take Dr. M.S. Swaminathan from his residence. They provided a car. Then I went to his residence. I took him. Then he delivered some speech. Then while coming down, then he asked me, see, one gentleman came to my house to pick me up, and where is he? Then I went there. Then he asked me, have you been provided with any vehicle for returning back to your hotel? See, that indicates the humanitarian mind which he has got even for a small fellow like Playar, who was touring at that time. Then I had a great responsibility for him, because I worked under that doyen of food science, food technology, led Dr. Subramanian, who was his dearmost friend. Then subsequently, we invited him to deliver the first death anniversary lecture at Tanjavur. Then he delivered about 3-tier cropping system. Then he talked about monocropping, and he coined various phrases. From that, I learned a lot of vocabulary from him. I thought that he is a man who has got not only scientific knowledge, but also the best English professorship under his mind. Then after my...
You wrap up, thank you.
Okay. Then after some time, I came down to MSSRF to take up a small program at Kendrapada, wherein that parboiling was done by villagers. I developed that parboiling system to get more yield of rice. During that time, there was no post-harvest technology department in this center. Then I suggested to professor to start one. Then there is no such item in the mandate of MSSRF. Then he asked me to meet Dr. Hulse of IRDC, who was at the time fellow of this foundation. Then I met him. Then I had an opportunity to undergo training at Philippines University under IDRC, someone other that was not taken up by MSSRF. Then after my retirement, they got a project from Ministry of External Affairs for starting Rice Biopark at Myanmar. Then he sent word for me after remembering that the meeting which I had with him for starting the process technology department at MSSRF. Then I took up that assignment. To the last 5 years, I was the consultant for MSSRF for undertaking that project at Myanmar. And every time when I meet him at his office, his first thing is to, are you coming from Myanmar? He will not ask me whether I am coming from Madurai. Last. This was the affection he used to have with the work only, not with the individuals. I thank Dr. Swaminathan for offering that opportunity and also for my association with him for the last 40 years in different spheres. And I got the Team Research Award when he was the Director General at ICIR. I thank him for that also. And I wish him very long life. I will be meeting him for his centenary celebration also at this foundation. Thank you very much.
I wish to thank all the speakers for sharing their experience with MSSRF. It came from their heart. It was very clear that 3 or 4 lessons from what they have said. The first is we must be clear about the clarity of goals. Where do we want to go? What do we want to achieve? The clarity secondly, clarity in terms of how to reach it, of methods of reaching the goal. One is have a clarity of goal, the other is how to reach that goal. And thirdly, a sense of comradeship, a sense of ownership of the center. Everybody feels that he is part of the center, he is part of the foundation, and that kind of sense of belonging, sense of ownership can be done only by not alienating staff and say staff, you are you staff, but whether the staff, junior or senior, or our Mali, the gardener, or all of them should believe they belong to a family. It becomes, we always call an institution the MSSRF family, and that family fellowship very important. This has to be done from the top. The top has to foster a feeling of ownership of all members of the staff. Well, there are so many points they have made, and I want to thank them. There are many others here who past staff members, some of them like Dr. Shamsundar Nair, we miss him, he's no more. He played a very important part in the Bio Village project. Many others, but already I could see from Dr. Arya, we are behind time, so I'll stop here. Thank you very much again, those who parted in this session. Hardy, here wanting to say something?
We will have a group photo.
Esteemed Professor, my guide and teacher, Dr. Velayutham, my former colleague at CPCRI, Dr. Anil Kumar, my good friend and executive director. He also belongs to Karnataka, from where I come, and distinguished audience. I first met Dr. Swaminathan way back in 1956-57 when I was the secretary of the Delhi University Botanical Society. Me and Dr. Nirmala Maheshwari came and requested him for a lecture. That's our annual feature. We call distinguished people. He readily agreed and delivered a lecture. That lecture was the most memorable experience in my life. Then I decided from that day onwards that I will work with him. Professor Maheshwari was very angry with me because he gave me a thesis, MSc thesis in tissue culture, and he wanted me to continue. And he offered me a CSIR fellowship also. And you know, it's very difficult to annoy a man, a towering person like P. Maheshwari, but I decided no. I came, and then Dr. Swaminathan said, I hear there is no vacancy now, but soon we will have vacancy when the IRA postgraduate school started. That was in 1958. And then I joined him as an honorary research worker. And when Professor Maheshwari brought the director of the Botanical Garden, NB, National Botanical Garden, and he came to my lab and he told, he is a runaway botanist from my department, and Swaminathan has robbed all my good students. Like that, he was joking. So that's my first experience. Next, after I joined, I was part of the Green Revolution movement. It was a very exciting period up to 1967, 68, when the wheat stamp was released by Indira Gandhi. We all went to Jayanti village for the sowing and planting, along with the Rockefeller Foundation staff. It was a great eye-opener, the Jayanti Seed Village program. And that is the start of the Green Revolution. He laid out 2,000 demonstrations, not a joke. And it was an eye-opener for the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And we had a very excellent agriculture minister, C. Subramaniam, and Secretary Agriculture, B. Sivaraman. So it used to say Swaminathan, Subramaniam, and Sivaraman, the three S's, they brought Green Revolution to this country. There's no doubt on that. And then another experience is one day, Professor Swaminathan, after he became director, he called me, Iyer, can you come to my house? I said, yes, certainly. I want you to accompany Professor Raman to the airport because I'm busy with a staff meeting here. He called a heads of divisions meeting, I think. I jumped at the opportunity to go with a Nobel laureate to the airport, Palam Airport. He was flying back to Bangalore. He had come to the previous day for a lecture in the National Physical Laboratory. So I readily went there. And then, so he was getting interviewed by a Times of India correspondent. And then he was making a very harsh statement. He said, let dogs bark, the caravan of science will go on. He was referring to CSIR. He said, very funny statement he made. He was a Nobel laureate, but he was a very short-tempered man. It's very easy to annoy him. But with Swaminathan, he was down to earth. And then he used to ask Dr. Swaminathan, he has a beautiful garden, which was his predecessor, Dr. B.P. Paul, was a rose breeder, the choicest roses in his garden and all that, and then other plants. Then he used to ask Dr. Swaminathan, we walked in the garden before going to the airport. And then, Swaminathan, do you know the name of this plant? It's a pagoda. He says, pagoda tree. I don't want pagoda tree. What is the botanical name? then he looked at me. Then I said, plumeria. I didn't ask you, young man. I'm asking you, professor. So these are all memories which I recall. And finally, when I got my MSc, Dr. Swaminathan drove me and Natarajan. Natarajan was receiving his PhD. His first PhD student, unfortunately we have lost him now. He was in Holland. And he drove Dr. and Mrs. Swaminathan in the front seat and myself and Natarajan in the back seat. What a great feeling it was. You know, he drove us to Delhi University for the convocation. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan was the Chancellor and V.K.R.V. Rao was the Vice Chancellor. It was a great event. We all came back and there was a party and all. That is another memory which I recall. And my third memory is when I... wait. You see, he told me to speak early. I said, let me organize my thoughts. Suddenly he told me, you have to speak. So I was not prepared, honestly. And such a great man, I cannot summarize in 5 minutes. It's impossible. It's very unfair to my professor. So, and finally, I would like to say that I had the opportunity of working in the foundation at his invitation to set up the tissue culture lab. If those of you have not seen it, please have a look at it. He was trying to clonally multiply mangroves, salt-tolerant mangroves, and then also standardized techniques for the transgenic rice, incorporating the salinity tolerant gene into mangroves. So it was a great opportunity for me to work here. I took medical leave because I was working in Kasaragod as head of the genetics division at the plantation crops. And then I took medical leave and came. And right. So that was another great experience for me to work here in this great foundation. This prayer was sung by M.S. Subbulakshmi at the inauguration of this building. It is a composition in Sanskrit written by Jagadguru Sankaracharya at that time of Kamakoti Peedam. The message is peace of the world, renouncing of war and all. Maitrim bhajata akil hrijayatrim, maitrim bhajata akil hrijayatrim, atmavadeva paranapi pashyata, atmavadeva paranapi pashyata, yuddham tyajata spardham tyajata, yuddham tyajata spardham tyajata, tyajata pareshva kramakramanam, tyajata pareshva kramakramanam, maitrim bhajata akila hrijayatrim, jananim prithvim kamadugaste, jananim prithvim kamadugaste, janako devaha sakala dayalu, janako devaha sakala dayalu, damyata datta dayadvam janata, damyata datta dayadvam janata, shreyo bhuyat sakala jananam, shreyo bhuyat, shreyo bhuyat, shreyo bhuyat sakala jananam, shreyo bhuyat sakala jananam, shreyo bhuyat sakala jananam, shreyo bhuyat sakala jananam. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, all the speakers, and it's a wonderful, recollection.